And now we're on to lesson 1.4. We're going to talk about powers of 10 and exponents and get into multiplying with these exponents and powers of 10. So this is an exponent. Actually, this is the exponent. That flying 5 behind it actually means something. And this number right here is called the base. And this is called a power of 10 because the base is a 10. There's something very special about the powers of 10, which make it so much fun to teach. I want you to notice something. This exponent 5 tells me that I need to multiply this base 5 times by itself. I'm going to multiply 10 times 10 times 10 5 times. So 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. The exponent told me that I'm going to do this 5 times. Do not get tricked, it is not 10 times 5. It is this way. And I want you to think about this for a moment. And on the next page, you're going to see what I mean, that there is a major trick to this. If you don't already know, you're going to like it. So I'm going to start with the one we already did. Go ahead and write down 10 to the 0 power, 10 to the first power, 10 to the second power. That's the way that you can say these. That exponent can be called the power of or to the something power. So I'm going to start with 10 to the 5th power. This is 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, and one more time. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 100 times 100 times 10. Do you notice anything about that? Let's see if you notice when we keep going. This 10 to the 4th power is going to be 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. That's 4 tens that we're multiplying. And this one is 3, 4, 10,000. Do you notice anything yet? Let's do the next one. 10 to the 3rd power. 10 times 10 times 10. That's 3 of them, and that is 1,000. 10 to the 2nd power, and there's special names for these we'll talk about in just a second. 10 to the 2nd power is 10 times 10, which is 100, which you know. 10 to the 1st power is just 10. We're only multiplying it one time. Well, there's one time we're writing it. That is 10. And then 10 to the 0 power is 1. Do you notice anything here? I see a pattern. I hope you see a pattern too in the number of zeros. There's no 0 there. So in this bottom one here, I have 5 zeros. In the next one up, I have 4 zeros, 3 zeros, 2 zeros, 1 0, and 0 zeros. So here is your major hint. The exponent in a power of 10, so this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0, tells you how many zeros are in your power of 10 answer. So if I say 10 to the 6th power, it's a 1 with 6 zeros behind it. And you can see that clearly on here. When you look, 10 to the 3rd power has 3 zeros. 10 to the 2nd power has 2 zeros. It makes it really nice to remember. Now this only works with powers of 10, so only when you multiply 10. I want you to notice 10 to the 2nd power and 10 to the 3rd power. Those are a little different. If you think about a 2-dimensional figure, like this square, compared to a 3-dimensional figure, like this cube. This one, you are multiplying 2 numbers. you're going to multiply whatever this is here by this here. You're multiplying two numbers. This one, you have three different dimensions. 1, 2, 3. Here's your best way to remember this, because this two-dimensional figure only has a width and a length, or a base and a height, depending on how you say it. It only has two different directions, two different measurements. This cube has three different measurements. It has base, or it has length, width, and height. So the second power is actually called squared. So this is 10 squared. The third power is called cubed, 10 cubed. And that works anytime you have an exponent 2 or an exponent 3. Exponent 2 is squared, just like this. And exponent 3 is cubed, just like this. So let's try some, like the questions that you would see. If you remember what I had showed you before, the value of 10 to the third power is a 1 because it's a power of 10 with 1, 2, 3 zeros. So we're talking about 1,000. The value of 10 to the first power was just 1 0, 10, because we're multiplying 10 one time. It actually just stays as 10. 10 multiplied twice is the same as putting 2 zeros behind the 1, and 10 to the fourth power, 1, 2, 3, 4. But here's where it gets a little different, because now we're multiplying with powers of 10. So what I want you to notice, the way that this was set up, these have powers of 10. So the value of 8 times 10 to the third power, okay, so it's going to be 8 times, and this right here is 1,000, so it's 8,000. This is 100, 10 squared is 100, so 13 times 100 is 13 with the 2 zeros from the exponent. This is 19 with no zeros, because we're multiplying it by 10 to the 0 power, which is 1, no zeros added. And this one, we're going to be putting 1 0 behind it, 70. They may also ask you, what is the missing exponent? So for this, we need to figure out how many 10s did they multiply to make this number. And that's where this comes from. So looking at this, 5 times 10 to something was 5,000. So how many powers of 10 did they multiply to make 5,000? That would be 10 to the third power. They multiplied it by 1,000, which is where those 3 zeros came from. 7 times 10 to what would give 700? Well, they multiplied 7 times 100. That gave them those 2 zeros behind it. You see where I'm getting those from? This has 3 zeros. This has 2 zeros. And then finally, they're going to just touch it up just a little teeny bit more, just make it a little bit harder, but not too much. I know this question here, the first one, because I'm being asked what's the value of this expression. Well, this expression started with 7 times 3, which is 21. And then I'm going to multiply that by 10 to the third power. 10 to the third power would have 3 zeros, 1, 2, 3, which works perfectly because this actually is 1,000, and that's 21 times 1,000, which is 21,000. This one's a little bigger. I have 20 times 20, which is 400. And then I'm going to multiply that by 10 squared, or to the second power, which means I am adding 2 zeros behind it, 1, 2. And my answer is 40,000.